And Jim Gordon, you want to tell us about doing year one?
Year one was a fantastic experience. It was just a call from the casting director and director of the film, and asking me if I would be interested in doing it. Of course, I was. It was a great experience. I mean, it's very different, obviously, from doing a live action piece. You're just in a booth recording on your own. Actually, I never even met Brian until we were doing the publicity for it. Brian Cranston. So it was odd, but it was coincidental, wonderful. To make worlds even smaller, I played Batman in year one. Brian Cranston played Gordon. Now I'm playing Gordon. Brian just starred on Broadway and played my uncle role called All the Way, playing Leonard Johnson. So the circles are within circles, but it's all just kind of it's a dream come true. To be able to play both iconic characters I might end up being one of the only ones who gets to do it. So
Gordon's evolved so much throughout this season, and he's absorbed so much about the way Gotham works and how to operate within that machinery. What do you think the most valuable lesson he's learned has been, and can you talk about how we might see him put that into effect in these last 4 episodes?
I think the most valuable lesson is probably a lesson that every fiber of his being wants to refuse, which is that you have to do a bad thing to do a good thing. It's the lesson that Harvey is trying to teach him. I mean, you saw it in the last episode. So Loeb ends up using Jim's own partner, Harvey, against him. Harvey is forced to testify that Flass was not guilty of what he's been accused of, and Flass is freed. And the reason that Loeb was able to do this is he had goods, he had dirt on Harvey. Harvey killed somebody. Loeb has a whole cachet of bad stuff on all kinds of cops. That's how he maintains power. So Harvey and Jim find this stash of evidence, and what it really is Loeb's daughter. At the heart of it, Loeb has a daughter that he's protecting. She accidentally killed her mother, Loeb's wife, and Jim uses that information against him. He uses a man's own daughter, his own mentally deranged daughter, against him. That's a pretty far cry from where we started out. We're not quite to the ends justify the means, but we're getting closer. He's going to get to be commissioner in a city like Gotham. You're going to have to play pretty rough at times, and you can justify it to yourself however you like, but a person who's good at heart, Jim is, knows that what he's doing is pretty fucked up.
As far as research, there's been so many different takes of Gordon, from the cartoons, from every single movie. Did you take anything from any of the movies or?
Well, I did. I've seen obviously the Nolan films, the Burton films, and I've read Central and various obviously Year One. But as an actor, I don't find trying to do an impression of anyone really helpful at all. What I had to find, actually sort of the opposite. I had to find what was unique about our conception of Gordon in this version of the story. And what is unique in this version, I think, is he's a veteran. He's a war hero. In other versions, he's been a cop, and he's been this disgraced Chicago cop, a bunch of other things. But in this version, he comes back from war. He's been decorated. He comes back to the city that he was born into but left. So he comes back to the city he's never really known, taking on his father's mantle, trying to clean up the city, only to find out the city's a moral abyss, and his father may not have been the saint that he thought he was. So he comes in with a sense of purpose and mission. He's a soldier, but he realizes that I guess effectively he's been dropped in Afghanistan. And how is he going to get things done? It's not going to be by being nice.
Can you tell us a little bit about that Barbara? I mean, would Gordon actually go out with her? Is he onto her? Is he going to tolerate her in this version?
I don't know. It's I think it's obviously a different conception of their relationship as well. It I think made more sense to Jim as we started the series, where he was effectively they were both effectively kind of lying to each other. Jim was probably approximating his parents' relationship. His father, came from nothing, in my imagination, and made himself into commissioner by working rooms and by probably marrying a woman like Jim's mother, who was probably blue blood and like a woman of society. And Jim's father made himself into a man of substance, and in fact, like that woman probably sees Barbara or something like that. He probably feels as though this might work, that they're wrong, or they could be. Certainly, that's where we are right now. She's come back, and you find a woman, and a woman with whom he shares more in common. A woman who is really a kindred spirit, and Dr. Thomas. So, this conception of their relationship may be a bit different from some of the other stuff we've read in the various iterations.
And speaking of the women in Jim Gordon's life, I think he has an incredibly interesting and deep relationship with Catwoman.
Yeah.
And even now Poison Ivy's kind of coming into it since they're all living in Jim Gordon's house.
Exactly. Barbara's house, yeah.
Yeah. So how is that kind of that? I don't know if we're going to see any more developments between Catwoman and Jim in the next 4 episodes, but kind of how do you see that relationship developing? Because he's kind of mentoring her and trying to keep her on the straight and narrow.
Right, and
she's
he's
not
trying even less successfully than he is with Bruce to keep her on the straight and narrow. I mean, she's a street kid, right? When we meet her, she's stealing because she needs to eat, but she doesn't come from kind of a structured, morally proper universe like Bruce did with his parents. So Jim's ability to affect a lot of positive change in her is probably minimal, but she has a certain amount of respect for him. He gets things done. But Catwoman, being Catwoman is not always it's not really gonna play by the rules anyway. So I think it's an interesting. I think it's a great dynamic to have on the show, to have 2 generations represented, or even argue 3, because there's an older generation of Falcone and Baroni and all those folks. But to have the center of the story with the adults kind of balanced with a younger generation who represents the future of Gotham, for better or worse, is a wonderful way of kind of showing the stakes. If these kids can survive and stay intact morally, perhaps there's hope. If they don't, all bets are off.
This will be last question. We have time for one more.
Can you talk a little bit about the mission that Gordon has? Obviously, is to help clean up the city, but we know as an audience that it needs to get naturally worse in order for Batman to be created, in essence. Is that something that you have trepidation about regarding as an actor, because Gordon has to fail in many ways in order for that to happen, or is it something that really brings dramatic meat to the role?
I believe it. It's dramatic meat. I don't think it's trepidation at all. I mean, not that you phrased this inelegantly at all, but I've had earlier people say, "Does that mean Gordon sucks at his job?" No, it's a hard job. It doesn't. No, but what we're telling it's Greek tragedy, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone in the circumstance there is a thing called fate that we are all subject to. And powers are beyond us. We are simple, fallible human beings. That's what's great about Batman. The whole Batman universe is it isn't Superman. He can't just fly around the world. He has to live in the muck, and things don't work out. And you can be the best cop in Gotham. You can be the best cop in the history of Gotham, and Gotham can still break you. That I think is beautiful. I mean, in a fucked up, beautiful way. Dramatically, it's beautiful. It's compelling to me. That's not that we're in any way like this, but The Wire is my favorite topic. Watching, front to back. Hopefully, that's The Wire is pretty tragic. Baltimore, that system, that whole whatever you want to call it, so the entire framework of that city is never going to allow good to triumph over evil. It might occasionally win here and there, but the whole thing is going to continue to devolve, and that's what we're telling here. I think it's still fascinating. I mean, of course it's fascinating. We're fascinated by Batman. He doesn't end up cleaning up.
That is true.
I mean, he kicks more ass, but he's still, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so